Hello and welcome to another End User Talk podcast. I'm your hostess, Jamila, your lady in tech. Hello and welcome to the End User Talk podcast. As you know, I'm your hostess, Jamila, your lady in tech. Today we have a great guest on the show, and I'm going to ask you first and foremost before we get started, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
I do appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us today. Well, what I'm going to do, just so our guests are aware of who you are, do you mind introducing?
Sure. My name is David Williams, director at AT&T, and I'm responsible for hyper automation and emerging technology with our business solutions organization.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us today. I guess what I would like to do before we get into the nitty gritty or the meat of things, you say you work for AT&T.
I do.
Okay. So that sounds very technical, first and foremost. So I'd like to ask, has technology or have you always been a technically savvy individual?
I've always been curious. And I think, if you look at technology and break it down, it goes back to science and math. And, both of those topics have evolved from the curiosity of scientists and mathematicians, right? And so I think that natural curiosity that I've had just lent itself into technology, right? So as a kid, you get some cool little thing, or maybe it doesn't work so well, you take it apart, there's little boys and girls doing that kind of stuff. And so I think it just over time, that curiosity never died in me. So.
All right. Well, that's fair enough. Curiosity definitely does get us into a few things. Most people heard the saying, curiosity kills the cat. That's the curiosity that killed the cat. But so with your how exactly did you now automation, of course, some people might not exactly know how that works. Can you give us a brief or just an explanation on what automation is and how it correlates to what you're doing?
Yeah. So, there's been technology advancement since the invention of the discovery of fire, or the invention of the wheel, right? And over time, it just gets, a little bit more slick, a little bit faster, a little cooler. And so when I think about automation, it can happen in all types of forms. The type of automation that I get into is often where you have large organizations doing work. That work may be manual, work may be in different systems, and there may be some opportunities or gaps where one system doesn't talk to another, or the work is manual and there is no system to do this. And so my team, we find ways to go automate that work, to make it easier on the folks that actually do it, help them to do more of it, make it a little bit more frictionless for those employees so they can make the experience more effortless for a customer.
Okay, that sounds so basically there are some roles that are a little bit more time consuming than others. And in order to make that process a little bit more seamless and I guess finish in a timely manner, if you will.
Yeah.
This is how automation is.
Yeah. And it gets, now, I'm speaking in plain terms, but it gets, very technical, right? We're using things to solve those manual processes. We're using stuff like robotics process automation. We're using data mining and process mapping to identify those issues. We're using desktop orchestration and container tools to go solve some of those things. So it gets, very technical, but the premise of it, the basis of it, right, is to go solve a need, to go close a gap, to solve a problem.
So and that makes a lot of sense, definitely. Now, In these current times, a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses, whether you're on the small end of the spectrum or on the corporate level, as a result of coronavirus or the pandemic, however you want to however you want to identify it, how exactly has your department per se or the company as a whole been impacted, and how has automation benefited?
Yeah, sure. So that's there's two sides to that coin for me. One is, first, you know, definitely, my heart goes out to, everyone who has been impacted by the pandemic. It's definitely changed all of our lives. My mother, had COVID during Mother's Day and was quarantined, right? So, it's hit us all, myself included. Um, but when I think of it from a professional perspective in automation, it's been revolutionary. COVID has accelerated a lot of things. It's made the fire a little bit hotter so people move a little more swift to solve some of the things that a lot of the folks that do these jobs already know needs to be solved for. Or it helped to accelerate and give a little bit more credence to some things that people have been wishing to solve for, maybe didn't have the support at the time. For myself, I was recently involved in an effort where when COVID broke out last March, the U.S. government mandated that everyone work from home. However, in telecommunications, telecom carriers were regulated by the FCC, and so therefore, bargain for employees are not allowed to view spy data, sensitive protected information data, while working from home. So they can't see a credit card number, a date of birth, a full social security number, those kinds of things. And so for us, that was very detrimental, right? Payments is our number one call type. Sales are our most treasured call type. And if our thousands of agents are not able to make those calls, and that directly impacts our financials, it directly impacts people's ability to do their job. And so in very short order, like in 5 weeks, a real small group of us, myself and a few other folks, ideated, came up with a solution, implemented in about 5 weeks, and solved for that need for 40,000 people worldwide throughout the U.S. and across the globe, so that they can complete those types of transactions and they can continue to work from home, and it can be a secure transaction for our customers. And based on that, or from that, maybe a few other things I've been working on, but most predominantly that, I was named the 2021 Black Engineer of the Year and received the Rodney Atkins Legacy Award.
Well, congratulations to you for that.
Thank you.
And that is definitely something that a lot of companies, and actually, security and privacy are efforts that a lot of companies are spending lots of money and lots of time and effort in order to protect. We all know that transitioning and everything being online or living online, from shopping to our education, our now work, and a lot of different industries, as you've mentioned, privacy and security are definitely those things that we want to keep in mind and also protect. So hats off to you and your team in all of your efforts in ensuring that, one, the company can continue as a telecommunications company. We all know we need that. Right. Internet is housed in that. And not many people nowadays have phone lines, but we've transitioned to VPN or IP lines, if you will.
Right.
So it's definitely important that we keep those interests intact, secure, so that on both a personal and a professional level, everyone is protected. So that's definitely great. Now, what other honors have you received since being, whether that's with these particular efforts and trying to make sure that work goes on, and in this particular point in time that we're in, what other awards or recognitions have you received that you're most proud of?
Wow. Well, I would tell you this. If I had to think about things I'm most proud of, I think about what we've built, this hyper automation team, right? It's really fast automation. It's not slow. It doesn't take long times. It's not the traditional IT stuff that costs $1 zillion to get it going, right? This is very low cost, often no capital dollars, optics, sometimes not even that required to get something moving, right? When I think about what we built, the first year we started this was 2018. We built this bot program. We finished the year with 2.1 million transactions completed. When we did that, that put us in the top 2 robotics process teams in AT&T. The year after that, in 2019, we quadrupled that, and we finished the year with 8 million transactions. Last year, in 2020, we quintupled that and ended the year with 41 million completed transactions and about $43 million worth of goodness that we drove. That's impressive. That stands out more than any award for me, because I think about the folks that do this work were former call center managers and reporting managers. And what they have assembled, what we have assembled together, is phenomenal in driving significant material benefit to the firm, right? And this is an extremely diverse group of folks, right? I'm talking Native American, female, African American, Asian, Indian, Asian, LGBTQ, people living with disability, the whole nine, the whole gambit, right? And so that is quite rewarding for me when I think about what we've built together. If I had to go beyond that, I got a couple of patents. I was awarded a couple of patents a while back. I'm pretty proud of that. That was pretty awesome feat.
Well, these are all definitely empowering and encouraging to others who might be looking at trying to advance themselves and be motivated in the area and the works that they do, both personally and professionally. And these are definitely achievements. So, sometimes we go through life or we go through our careers, and there are a number of things that we do on a daily and regular basis that aren't always recognized.
Right.
Right. It's just a matter, those moments where someone does recognize us and identify the impact that we've made, whether it be on a small scale or a national scale or even a worldwide scale. It's very encouraging, and it also lets you know that my impact has been felt. And I'm grateful that someone sees it and it's making momentum in a way that not just for my own self, but for a number of people to be able to benefit from. So recognition definitely is important, but every once in a blue moon, we'd like to know that someone else sees us. So those awards, the certificates.
Exactly. It helps. It does. It does. When I received the award, the congratulatory letter from it, the editor and CEO, Tyrone Taborn, in that note, he speaks to, hey, look, congratulations, but, more than anything, we want to let you know what you already know is that you're a very special and gifted person. This recognition, just highlights that. And so I'm right there with you. And so is the publisher, right? Because a lot of times in folks' careers, there's a ton of goodness that goes on that it never breaks the surface. And so when you get something that does, you do want to take a moment and celebrate it. I try to do the best that I can to recognize my team in that same way. And so we have a homepage that automatically updates all day long, with numbers like a stock ticker. And it's a beautiful, beautiful dashboard. It's just gorgeous. And, beautiful pictures, layouts, and cool little graphs and stuff ticking and moving. But then also on that same page is everyone's picture from the team on that same page. So there is no mistake in who should be attributed to the success that you see on that page. There's no mistake, right? And so, not that I'm anxious to get rid of my team, but they all know that they can go anywhere in the company and show that to anyone, right? And the facts are the facts. Their name, their picture, those numbers, it's real.
And that is important, especially with your growth and transition within a company and showing your skills and how valuable you are to a company and whomever your proposed next hiring manager, group, team, or whatever ventures you're planning on partaking in your career.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good. I think, there's two forms of recognition. There's the, the stuff that you stop and, we all applaud, right? And then there's on a continual basis, right? And so for me, that dashboard at least helps to solve half of that coin, which is that perpetual, continual basis that look, um, don't get it twisted. These accomplishments come from this group of people, right? And so therefore they don't have to fight that battle, right? They just have to tell the story or share the story. And so I try to help them do that as well.
And it's wonderful, someone in your position. Sometimes people think, who are lower level, we sometimes overlook or don't consider that someone in your level being a director. Sometimes those individuals are not always in the loop. And that is an interesting segue that brings me here. You mentioned in all of the different nationalities that worked with you during this incorporation of the automation and how it affects or how it will help or has helped your organization. But along with 2020 introduced, I don't even want to say introduced, but there was a lot of chaos that went on in 2020. Now, a lot,
To say the least, right?
to say the least. Some of those things were this huge pandemic that all of us have had to, in some way, form, or fashion, just kind of suffer through, if you will. It presented some very interesting challenges. One of those challenges are the platforms that we have with social media that presented a lot of the unrest between racism and bias. And as a Black woman, I can only give my perspective and my experiences, but it's not something new. 2020 didn't awaken or bring to light something that is new. This is something that Black people and people of color have always experienced and haven't always had a way to express these things because they've in some ways been a little subtle, but yet still in your face. As a director, in your position, and I know that this affects you both personally and then professionally, how have you been able, or AT&T as a whole, been able to tackle some of these sensitive issues encompassing race?
Yeah. Yeah, man, 2020, right? Oh my gosh. First and foremost, gosh, I mean, Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and dozens of other families. My condolences go out to those folks. AT&T has been stand up about it. Our CEO has been very public. He's made a few public statements, I think, on Twitter and elsewise. Stating the position of the entire company that, this is wrong. This is not right. We will stand up. We will do more about it. There's been some discussion, some visibility, some communications that's been sent around the company to try to help give Black people more equality in pay. And so where they've done some analysis and where they find people that may have could use a bump if they're, if it's a disparate difference or something, that they're trying to help bring those people up. And so AT&T's, doing what they can within their own house to clean up shop, and then also being public about us, in our broader society to say, what is right and what is wrong, and being vocal about it. And so with racism, it is always going to be just underneath the surface. What you see above the surface is like a sunburst, right? It's just the tip of the spear, but it's a big spear. There's a lot more there. Tip of the iceberg. There's a lot under the surface. And personally, I've made some statements on Twitter publicly. AT&T helped to amplify those comments. They even used some of my Twitter comments in some national Dreaming Black commercials, ads that we ran on BET and other outlets. you know, when I think about racism, though, especially in the professional world, there's two sides of it. There's the racism that goes on one race versus another, and there's unfortunately the racism that goes on colorism, whatever you want to call it, within our own race. And if you think about racism from one race to another, what are we really, really talking about? In a professional sense, it's almost like fear of competition, in my 2 cents. Fear of competition. Why wouldn't you want that other person to compete for that job? Why wouldn't you want that other person to move up? Why wouldn't you want that who has those great ideas? Why wouldn't fear of competition? You don't want to compete with that particular individual, that woman, that person of color, that black person, that whatever, that person living with a disability, you know.
And I agree. It definitely is. There's so many levels to it, and racism encompasses so much. And even within our own community, as you have mentioned, there's biases that we do have that are on a whole nother.
Yeah.
It would take a whole nother conversation to address those.
It's like Spike Lee's School Days never ended. It's like the movie never ended.
Exactly. It's just
Unfortunately.
continually perpetuated in so many different ways. And,
Tall versus short, bright versus light.
I'm telling you,
rich
Curly.
versus poor, inner city versus suburbia, state school versus private, Delta versus AK. I mean, we're just steadily. And what's funny about it all, what's I don't want to say funny, what's to me blatantly ironic about it all is this. The entire black race, from Barack Obama to any person living without a home, I don't care what part of the spectrum you sit on, we have not come far enough to compete against each other.
Right.
At all, right? I mean, there's no, for me to say, oh, I got the job and I don't care if you ever get it, or I'm not going to try to help you move up. Oh, I'm the whatever title I am and you're not. There's no room for that. We haven't come far enough for that. There's not enough of us with enough wealth. There's not enough of us with enough status so that all of us are not afraid when we get pulled over. There's not enough of us winning to start competing against each other in those ways, to not try to help each other. We just have not come far enough for us to have that mentality. And unfortunately, like I say, School Days has never stopped.
And I agree. Unfortunately, it's just this mentality where people have this urge or this desire to feel like they are, I don't want to use the term superior, but everybody or the human race has to have some sort of gauge of hierarchy, whether that is financial, it's with your education, it's with a talent or an ability. There's just this undying goal to feel purposed, to say that I'm here and you're there, whether that's you as an individual, whether that's you as a group of people, whether that's you as.
Right. And I'm with you. Jamila, it's almost like success at what cost? Is it success at any cost? Success at your expense? Am I willing to have my success at your expense? No, surely not. Our people haven't come far enough. Even if I win and you lose, I haven't won that much. Again, when I get pulled over, I'm just as panicked as you are. Again, when I go in the store, I'm looked at crossways just as some others. Again, when I apply for a loan, I get the same treatment or maybe not the same treatment as some other, right? I mean, so we haven't come far enough to play that game. We just haven't.
Right.
In my opinion.
I mean, and Hey, I agree with you. And there's so many different levels that this is played on. The whole idea is someone wanting to be in the position of power, someone needing to be in the position of influence and not willing to lose that, whatever that is, and fighting very hard, one, to maintain it, to stop anyone else who can possibly take that place from you.
And where you have to ask yourself the question, it's like, first and foremost, it's funny how, and America has to, contend with this more than many other countries because of, how diverse we are. But, are we on the same team? I would like to think that we're all first recognizing that we are all Americans before we get into this other thing, before we get into which political party, before we get into which, color you came out of the womb, before we get into all of that. Hey, we are all countrymen. We're all on the same team. And so if you think about a team, like a track team running their race, right? One person has a really good start. Somebody else has a really good finish. Somebody else has a really good middle, right? And you put those people in the right place and they run that race and together they win. But if you disadvantage one person on the team, do you think the entire team wins?
Not at all.
Probably not, right? A house divided cannot stand.
And that is a great point. With all of these challenges ahead, before us, you got individuals who are looking to you for guidance, who are looking to you as encouragement. You are in a position where you facilitate or you're facilitating what success is. Do you see or feel a sense of pressure of being the poster board of Black success, whether that's to a male's perspective or a female's perspective?
No, but I do understand that pressure. And so, we put a lot of pressure on people who are easily recognized publicly, popular, famous, celebrity, whatever word you want to put on it. And everyone's just human, right? Everyone puts on their pants the same way. No one levitates in the air, puts on both pants legs at the same time. Right? So I feel like, I don't have that. I don't feel that kind of pressure, but I also, try to hold myself to a high standard. I try to deliver. I try to deliver for the people that count on me, the team members that count on me, the thousands of employees needing new automation, the millions of customers looking for an effortless experience. I don't lose sight of that. When I go to work, I think about the competitors across the street are trying to put us out of a job, literally. I don't think many people in corporate America, I can't say that. I don't know how many people in corporate America go to work with that type of mentality to realize that the people across the street that sell the same thing that you sell are working to put you out of a job.
I think
Competition, right?
Right. Competition is definitely healthy, but I do believe that there's an element of people who do understand that every day is a challenge and competition is definitely there. You are correct. You've got millions, I don't want to say millions. You've got a lot of companies out there who are providing the same or similar services. What makes your service so? Why would I become a customer or a client? Why would I patronize you when I can get this, or that, which is the same, just packaged differently? Why should I patronize you? What do you have that's different?
Right.
And I believe that is a fear that most people.
Right. And so, you step out into the real world, you step out onto social media. You step out into the podcast world where the competition it's imminent. You can't miss it. It's in your timeline, right? It's in your social feed, right? The competition is all around. And if you're in that business, if you're in that industry, you get it. You realize that you have to put together a really good product. It has to be appealing to your audience. It has to be easily accessible, whatever it is, no matter what, right? Appealing to that customer, appealing to that market and getting to that. and having that imminent, I don't want to call it a threat, but that imminent threat in your, peripheral moves you forward. It keeps you moving with a sense of urgency. I don't think everyone goes to work thinking that way. And, having that sense of urgency I believe would drive a behavior where people do bring their best self to work, right? If you call yourself a business professional, well, let's just break down that word for a moment. What is a professional athlete? What do you expect when you go see a professional athlete perform? You probably expect to see something pretty amazing. The tickets might cost a little more than normal, right? A business professional, should I expect anything less? Should I expect a less thrilling performance? Should I expect less thrilling results? Right? I think if people have this type of passion about what they do, and they truly seek to try to go do the absolute very best that they can do, then all the rest should come with it. Now, look, I live in the real world, and racism and all of this stuff gets in the way. And hey, it's tough. But I think that what breaks through that noise, what breaks through that ground, through that water barrier, is that type of persistent, that type of sense of urgency to go make a difference, right? To believe within yourself that you can be the difference. And therefore, if you really believe it, then you know that you got to go be the difference. And here we go, right?
That's right. That's you being relevant and having some longevity. You've got to, I always say, a goal is a plan without a purpose. I'm going to print up some shirts with that too.
You're right.
A goal is really, that's what it is. That's you saying, you know what, I've got a target goal. I've got an idea. I have a concept, but it will stay just that until you make the effort to make it, put it in perspective, or to put forth the work.
Right. And it's not rocket science, right? I think a lot of times, it's like, oh, well, what do you just go do it? You will figure out what's the right and wrong. Just go do it.
You know what? That's a great. I like what you're saying there. You hear that all the time, people. And if you're watching social media and you're one of these people, I'm a mother of 3 now. My daughters are now grown, but they grew into this era where people are overnight successes. Mm-hmm. Yet, unfortunately, we're looking at these people's overnight success, if you will, or perceived. Mm-hmm. We don't see the work that was put in place. We're just seeing the end result, the after effect. And you hear people say that, successful individuals say it all the time, or most of the time. Nothing becomes something without one failure and putting in the work.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you went associated it to let's use some popular people. They said that Drake was nominated, or he received the Artist of the Decade award, something like that, for between 2010 and 2020. And, he had these huge numbers. Okay, so let's rewind. If we would have had to bet that a Jewish Canadian childhood actor would be hip hop's Artist of the Decade, most of us probably wouldn't have made that choice. Jewish Canadian? Probably not. Yeah. Right. Yeah, all of that, right? If we had to say some, poor child from Marcy Projects in Brooklyn, New York would be, one of the greatest writers of the pop culture era, probably wouldn't have made that guess. And so you never know where success can come from. You never know who's it. And at the end of the day, what really matters, I mean, even, you could go down the list, Oprah Winfrey and all, you could go down the list, right? A lot of folks were counted out. They just kept believing in themselves. Ray Wilkins, who retired, he used to run Yellow Pages and Innovations and a few other things. Ray said one day he got on the elevator with a guy. Um, and the guy got on the elevator with him. He was like, "Oh man, you're a big shot now." Ray had these huge titles and didn't even have closet space for awards, right? "Oh, you're this big shot now." Ray says, "Oh no, I'm not a big shot. I'm just a little shot that kept shooting." And that's really what it boils down to. You know, when I do mentor, I talk to folks, and one thing I say is, especially talking to folks that's been, working for a long time, trying to get it. It's just not working out for them, right? All the things they're trying, just not really firing on all cylinders. Maybe they're still non-management, trying to break into management or whatever level they're at, trying to get to the next level. And I said, look, with a lot of, Black people, folks that grew up underprivileged and all that. I said, look, we have come up off of a principle of where our parents were making $1 out of 15 cents. Like, that's not a myth. It's real. You've seen when mama didn't have it and had to stretch it to make ends meet, right? But when we go to work, we don't take that same mentality with us. We leave it back at home. We leave it with mama. When I tell folks, I say, look, man, if a CFO ever made $1 out of 15 cents for 1 or 2 quarters, that CFO would be CEO. You were trained with an innate skill, an incredible skill of making $1 out of 15 cents. Take it to the corporate world, modify it so it fits the corporate protocol. Go be successful.
That's right. So, David, you and I have a pretty good history together. You and I started, oh my gosh, I don't want to date myself, but it's been a while. So it's been a little bit. But I do remember having this conversation with you back then, and working for the same company in the same department, and just trying to make ends meet. And back then, now I've been a mother. I don't know if you're a parent now, but my goal was different. My determination for growing back then was different, and my motivation was different in that I had children that I had to provide for. Mm-hmm. So my desire to grow within the company and be my best was stemmed from being an example to my daughter, so that one day when they grew up, I had a story and I had a journey and I lived an example to them, so that they knew, although it is hard, although this road is rocky and it's bumpy and things don't always turn out the way that you expect or even plan, not to give up, to keep trying. Now, your path looks different from mine, but the conversation that I do remember having with you was, I said, David, what do you plan on doing with this? If you get, what does your journey look like? And I do remember you responding and saying, well, what I'd like to do is start off, I want to wear suits. I like that. That's the path. That's going to be the beginning of my path. And whatever that looks like, whatever is associated with that, wherever that takes me, if I can wear that suit, that's where I want to be.
So for all the listeners, Jamil and I had this conversation when I was 8 years old. No. No, seriously. So, yeah, look, we were on the phones trying to get it done, clocking in, punching in, logging out for break, all of that, that whole grind. And I didn't fully understand what I wanted, but I knew I could do more. And, I lost my father at 7. He committed suicide. And so I never had anyone who taught me the business protocols. There's some children, young boys, young girls, who have the benefit of parents that teach them, show them, expose them to meeting cultures and corporate protocols. I didn't have that. And so it took a while for me to learn those things, right? The mentors that I had often were older white men, and they were those people, those guys, those ladies, those women, those leaders, they were instrumental to me. They taught me as much as they could, and I soaked up as much as I could as well. I took it so serious that I cracked this joke when I'm mentoring others. I said, look, at one point, all my mentors at the time were older white men who were formerly in the military. None of them had facial hair. So as I'm going through, my corporate journey early on, I'm like, maybe that's the secret sauce is no facial hair. So I cut off my goatee and mustache, and I'll just say that was not a good look. And people people laugh about that. And it's funny, and I share that because for one reason, just to say, look, at the time I took it that serious. Now maybe I was a little off, but I was willing to change. I was willing to modify. I was willing to learn. I was open-minded. And in the mentoring relationship, you need that from a protege, from a mentee, to be open-minded. Because that mentor may be shooting out a whole lot of insight, and you got to pick it up, as quick as you can and run with it. Because they're talking at one level and you're at another level, and you're going to have to learn how to speak the language. And so anyhow, I was way wrong about that facial hair thing, but I took it that serious. And so that was something that I did in an attempt to look at, what does it take to move forward in corporate America? But I was that determined, that devoted to try to go figure it out.
And that is definitely a good lesson to have, or a lesson to learn. There are so many young men who grew up in similar situations where they did grow up without a father or a father at home. As far as young men are concerned, that is their model. That is their example. That is who helps them learn the path of a man. Right. And when you lack that within your home environment, it is very difficult for you to be able to direct your path and know which decisions, which route. Now, not to say mothers don't put forth their best effort, but there are certain things that a mother cannot experience or teach her son to experience. The male experience or the male road or track in life. So you have to take it upon yourself to hopefully find the appropriate model, example, in your case, mentor, to guide you down the path. But it also takes a little bit more work in you trying to discern these lessons.
Right. Again, going back to that, what we talked about in the beginning, the curiosity. I'm curious. Why is this person president and that other person is call center rep? Even though both of them have the same degree. Why is that?
Yep, I think a lot of people have that question.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's, now look, does racism play in this? Sure it does. Absolutely. There's disparaging and discrimination, all sorts of things going on in the society. Absolutely. But it's not always just that. Sometimes there's something to go learn, right? There's some protocols, decorums, politics, very nuanced things. There are some esoteric circles that you have to run in or know how to navigate through. And, all of that isn't taught in a classroom. All of that isn't taught to children growing up. Sometimes you have to learn those things the hard way or the long way. And I hope that in the folks that I get to mentor, I hope that the folks that look to me for counsel, I'm able to help them not have to go through as tough of a road as I did. If so, then I call it a win.
Well, David, I want to say first and foremost, I'm proud of you with all of the accomplishments and the growth and development that you, one, took responsibility on yourself and understood that I want more. I deserve more and I have more to offer. So as a result of that, you have been able to achieve some goals and experience some opportunities and live through some things that, the average person may not. But you mentioned earlier, if we were to live as statistics, if we were to live our lives as these statistics or these stereotypes, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Right.
because you started off with an unfair advantage at age 7 to lose your father. Someone would count you off as, oh, there's no hope for that one.
Correct.
And
And
all
it's
the
been that, yeah, I've heard that, right? Yeah, absolutely. In the corporate setting, yeah, and elsewise, yeah, absolutely.
And so your story, your journey, and I enjoy doing these podcasts for these types of this information. It can be hurtful, to discuss or even to express sometimes, but people need to see the human element. They need to see that these people who are in these positions and these people who have become entertainers, that what we consider and we level as or judge as success or put on these pedestals, they are humans.
Right. Look at Simone Biles, right? I mean, she came from what, right? Being adopted and went through all that. She was, an Olympian, gold medal Olympian, right? Look at Michaela DePrince, right? The beautiful ballerina from Sierra Leone, born in the midst of civil war, her insides cut out by a soldier, death, shown to her up close and personal, like they killed people in front of her when she was just a toddler, cast aside into an orphanage, by the grace of God, adopted, landed in the U.S., and it's been a meteoric rise ever since. Beautiful, talented individual. But even as beautiful and as talented as she is even more driven, right? Her story is one of the most amazing. And I think about that in any sense, right? It's determination. I come from very humble beginnings, right? South Dallas is where I was, born. And, in the city of Dallas, if you ask the bad neighborhoods, what's the bad neighborhood? They would all say South Dallas, right? And, coming from that and, having meetings with CEOs and chairmen of Fortune 10 companies, 2 or 3 hour meetings, these folks don't waste time, right? Some of the brightest minds, Hall of Fame, telecom Hall of Famers, right? Business Hall of Famers, literally, Hall of Famers. The hyper automation team we built, the patents, the roles that I've had working in data centers and driving hundreds of millions of dollars or inventing things that drive hundreds of millions of dollars. No one, I don't know anyone from my neighborhood that does that kind of stuff. And people probably didn't expect me to be someone that would be involved in those kinds of things. But I would say to anyone living in any neighborhood, in any underprivileged, in any scenario, I don't care if you're in suburbia and life just ain't cool right now, whatever your situation is, there's no judgment to it, wherever you are. I would say to you that it is a long way to the top, but it is not some place that's far in the sky. It's deep in your heart, and you got to go find it. It's a long way to the top, and that is not some place high in the sky on a mountain somewhere. It's deep inside of you, and you have to go find it. And as soon as you do, your superpowers will be awakened. You'll go do all the things that you dreamed and wanted to do. You will know your purpose. You will walk in your calling. You will make your mark on the world. And no matter what discrimination, no matter what racism, what colorism, what sexism, what disadvantage somebody tries to put before you, it won't stop you. It didn't stop a little kid who went and got his degree at 16 and later went on to get a PhD, and we call him MLK Jr., right? It didn't stop Michaela. It didn't stop Simone. It didn't stop Sean Carter, Drake, whoever. It's not stopping Jamila. It's not stopping David. And so I think that's the real goal, is to look deep in yourself and go find that thing. Go find your best self. And it's going to require some introspective things, right? You're going to have to cut out some nonsense. Your moral compass is going to have to get right. And then, you go walk in your purpose. Go be successful.
I don't know how else to end the podcast at this point. That, if nothing else, has to be by far the best information or encouragement, the best word of advice that I would be looking for someone to lend to my daughters, or even if I'm discouraged myself, because life does get discouraging. And you
Sure.
definitely need to be able to look to someone or something, or hear some words that'll stir up that fire in you. Or if you've been down and you just don't have the motivation internally, you got to
Yeah.
find it somewhere.
Yeah. If there's anything else I could say, it would be this. Life, to your point, life can be very tough at times, very tough. But there's one thing that's bigger than life, and that's the universe. And the universe is actually working for you. It's working for you on a macro scale. It's working for you on a micro scale, right? Nobody has to wake the sun up to warm up the earth and bring us a morning, right? The universe is working for you. No one has to remember to turn off the lights, right? Nighttime comes on time every time. No one has to remind the sky to produce some oxygen in the trees, and it all just comes to you, right? No one has to remind the cells in your body to fight off it just happens, right? You have a common cold, you get sick, and your body fights off that virus. If you're hearing my voice today, you've already lived through a pandemic, so you're a survivor already. And so, although life can be tough, the universe is working in your favor. And no matter how deep the valleys get, what goes down must come up. And so just keep fighting. Don't ever give up. Ever.
Thank you for that word. And I always like to say that the purpose of my podcast is to speak with individuals who are subject matter experts in their journey. Everybody's path is different, but if nothing else, I love to be able to end on a note of speaking with purpose. So, David, again, congratulations to everything that you have intentionally and unintentionally set out to take on, all of those challenges. You have definitely been rewarded, and I know that there are more rewards out there for you. If nothing else, just you taking on opportunities to mentor others who need that little extra word of advice, encouragement, direction. So continue to do what it is you're doing, both professionally and personally and privately. But I want to make certain that individuals are able to follow you, your projects, your journey going forward. Where can we find
You can find me at David Chris Global on Instagram. You can find me at davidcwilliamsinc.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm very grateful to you for giving me the opportunity to have you on the podcast. It's you're always welcome. Welcome anytime.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I do wish the best for you and your family. Continue to make it through this pandemic. Hopefully things will work out, and 2021 and going forward will be a little better. But continued success to you, David. Thank you again.
Truly appreciate it, Jamila. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish you the same continued success and success for your 3 girls. God bless.
We've come to the close of another episode of the End User Talk podcast. I hope that what you've heard today will leave you feeling empowered. Thank you for listening. And remember, every day's a training day.